Okay, and welcome to my studio, everybody. Thanks for joining. And I am so sorry that the recording last night didn't work. I actually do think it was my fault. I pushed record, but my computer didn't have enough storage on it and decided just not to do it for whatever reason. I'm so sorry. Anyway, I am going to refilm it and a couple of surprises as we go along. So hopefully you stick around and enjoy the painting that we're going to do again this morning. So I have my coffee because it's been a morning. There we go. My coffee. I'm going to take a moment to slow down and do this with you. So I am so sorry that it didn't record. Couple of things from last night. We did have a bit of a chat about things, and I'll try and remember what we talked about. We had a lovely conversation with those that were live. And as I do when I have any workshop, particularly online, but also in person, I do a lucky draw, prize draw, whatever it is, for somebody to win my artwork. So my artwork from last night, oh, there it is. And that was won by the lovely Joe, who was on the live. So normally my artwork goes to, which way was it? I think it might have been that way I painted it. Oh, I can't remember. Anyway, you have to be at the live to win the artwork. But that said, since I did majorly ruin things from last night, we're going to do it all again. And somebody can have my artwork today. So somebody, I'll do another lucky draw. I have everyone's here. So when we're finished, when I'm finished, I will draw someone's name out. See what I might do it in blues today. We might go blues. We'll see. So that's what we're painting today. This was my original one. There we go. They're just five petal flowers. So little oval shapes first, and then we build up the layers. And when we're painting in watercolor, we paint in layers to build up the depth and the contrast and give the flowers some shape and some form. But I'll get more into that when I turn the camera around as well. So that's what we're painting. That was last night's. Every time I paint it, it's different. There we go. Two different ones. And let's see. I think I'll do a blue one today. I might even get some purple paint out and do blues and purples, which might be nice. I can't think what else. We did talk about some paints, so different sorts of paints. So I'll show you my palette when I turn this around. This was one that we talked about. This is the Kiritake Gamze paints, beautiful Japanese paints. Go the right way up, just those. I'll leave the covers on or else they all fall out. We had a lot of discussion about my favourite colours, obviously magenta and green. There's some yellow. There's a lot of colours. Oh, I love the golds as well in those. Pinks I've used, and the reds, but there's also some colours there that I really haven't used a lot at all, which, is bad. And I should challenge myself to paint in different colours. Anyway, these were the Kiritake ones. I think I got them from Eckersley's on the Gold Coast. So Eckersley's are Australia-wide. They're a really great art supply place. Have some great sales, so if you can pick it up on sale. I think they also sell maybe a smaller version in Officeworks as well, but they're just another brand. Very nice. Okay. Yeah, I think we might get back into it. Let me have another little paint. And yeah, I'll turn the camera around and we will have a chat about what I have on my desk and my supplies. One moment. Back to there. There we are. Okay. Here we are. Here's the artworks. Let me move this one. So these are my two artworks. Let's see how I can change it up. It'll be the same but different again, no doubt. So this is my palette that I like to paint with, particularly on the lives because it fits nicely on the screen. It's a great size. You can see my colors from last night. This is a porcelain palette. and it's from Meaden. It's just a really good size. Holds just a little bit of paint in here. These are all my favorite colors and different brands as well. My magenta needs refilling, so is the blue. Obviously, favorite colors, but they're good, and I'm loving the reds that I've got here. So when I'm making a palette like that out of my favorite colors and my favorite paints, I make a swatch card. So that replicates every hole, and I've added a bit of water so I can see the different shades, so the darkest darks and the lightest lights in here. But also on the back of this, I've also written all the names, which I realized last night are back the front. There we are. And the brands as well. Most of them are either Daniel Smith or My Jello Mission. There's a couple of Maramine Blue, which I also like as well. So just a few brands that I like. Daniel Smith are my favorite. The My Jello Mission are beautiful. They're very vibrant, lovely colors. And that's what we use in the in-person workshops as well. Right, so that's what I make. Every palette, no matter what I'm doing, every palette gets one of those. And it will sit beside me just so that I can remember the um, colors that I've got. Brushes, that's my paint. These are my brushes that I've pulled out. Um, my selection of brushes. This is my mop brush or a quill brush. Probably, I think a quill brush is the French term for it. This is not an expensive one, but it has ended up being my favorite, and you don't have to spend a lot of money on brushes. So that is my quill brush. I think I got that on Amazon. Not very expensive. It comes back to a beautiful point like that, holds a lot of water. I can get a really fine mark with the tip, and I can get an extra smushy mark by using the whole body as well. If you come to an in-person workshop, this is the brush that we use, and we try and limit it to one brush so that you can get a handle on it and understand how you can use one brush to make lots of different marks. So that's my favourite. It's probably what I'll paint with today. Last night I also used that one, which is a dagger brush, which is a beautiful shape. It's great for making leaves and things. Just something different. I love that one. These are just round brushes in different sizes, and they do come in different sizes. So I've got a 4, a 6, 8, 10, and a 12. These ones are Princeton brushes. They're just round, nice brushes. Princeton are lovely. They hold a lot of water and a lot of paint. So that's my selection. I'll probably just stick with these two again today so we don't confuse everyone. I also grabbed a liner. This is just a fine liner, a number 1. And these are great for making really detailed work like that. It comes down to a really beautiful fine point. Holds a little bit, and that when we're doing the really fine detail work at the very end, I may use that, I may not. All right, the paper I like to use is always 300 GSM. That's kind of like the industry standard of weight and paper. So this is my paper. It's 100% cotton watercolor paper, and it is cold pressed, so it has a bit of texture on it. And you can also get hot pressed, which is smooth. I tend to use mostly cold pressed because it just gives a little bit more interest. You can see that skipped across the texture in the texture of the paper, and it just makes things a little bit more interesting. But if you want something that flows more and moves more, then try hot press and try both. See how much you like it. So 300 GSM, it comes up to 600 GSM, which is pretty thick. You really wouldn't use that unless you were making a bigger artwork where you wanted it to hold a lot more water and not bend and buckle so much. I have 2 jars of water. Let me move my coffee. 2 jars of water just sitting here. One for dirty because that's still dirty from last night. And look, I kept my clean one clean. So I'll use the clean water for pulling out. It's a technique where I lay down the paint in a particular area and then pull it out with clean water to kind of blend it out to my first layer where it's nice and light. We try and keep it clean. What else have I got? Okay, mopping up. I always paint with a tissue in my hand. It's just a regular tissue. Great for mopping up puddles. That's last, probably. Nope. There's last night's tissue. Mopping up puddles if I've got too much water on my page. It also helps dry it off quickly as well. And by mopping up with this, you don't get any indentation on your paper. If I used paper towel to mop up, you would get those ridges showing in your artwork. So we try to avoid that. The paper towel is for dabbing my brush off when I come out of the water, or if I feel like I might have too much paint, that's what I have a paper towel for. There's my tissue for today. This is just a sponge in a little box that I've picked up. I also use that for dabbing my brush off as well. Um, just it's wet from last night. It's just handy. Holds a lot of water. I'll probably flip it over once it gets a bit grubby, but I don't mind those. Look, a dishcloth beside you is also handy. All right. Um, and I have a heat gun here as well. This is my heat gun. I think I got this one on Amazon, but I think they do sell them in Spotlight now. What's it called? It's just a heat gun. Um, they're great. It's tiny. It sits beside me. I have one here and one on my other desk where I paint. They're handy. Or you can use a hairdryer as well. I just like those for space and speed. They're a bit quicker. I think that's about it. I think I've covered everything. Last night we did do a bit of a warm up as well, so we will do that again this morning. I'll just keep going on here because you can see what I'm doing. So when we're painting in watercolors, we paint in layers, and I like to explain it in the thickness of the water and the paint. So we want to start off mostly water with a little bit of pigment in it. And that's my first layer, which is, I reference it as tea. So if you think of the consistency of tea, it's very light. No, it's very watery with just the color in it. Um, so that's my first layer. Very watery, very light. Now watercolors always dry a little lighter. So keep that in mind, but as light as possible. And you can just build up from there. My next layer is more like the consistency of milk. So more paint and less water. Not 50-50, I would think. It might be 60% water and 40% paint, but we want the consistency of milk. And that's to start and pick up the depth and some of the darker places in a flower or a landscape. These, I've done it in flowers, but it also applies to landscapes. And if you keep that in the back of your mind, tea, milk, and honey, it's a really good process to get you thinking about what might need a little more depth and detail and of what thickness of paint to use. So tea's watery. Milk is starting to find my details. So if I've got a flower, usually the light will hit the tips and the darkness is down here. So that's where I've laid down the dark and I've pulled it out with just some clean water. And then my finishing layer is honey. And honey I will often pick up out of the palette completely where it's wet and started to mostly paint with a little bit of water so it's wet. And I will separate the petals out with that using just laying it down. I'm not going to outline the petal. I'm just laying it where the darker sections might be and then blending it back with just clean water. So I'm blending it back into my milk layer. Anywhere where the petal might be rippled, it would be a little darker in there as well. And then we do our centers. So the leaves I have done tea, milk, I've just added a little bit more darkness to the underside and along the stem as well. And then I've added my honey here where it would be really darker in places. So my layers, this is my biggest layer. This is my middle layer, so it's still quite a bit of work, but not as much. And my honey is really just my finishing off layer. Keeping in mind when I'm painting, my tea layer, I'm holding my brush way back. So I have less control and I'm trying to be as loose as possible. When I'm doing my milk layer, I might come halfway on my brush. So I've got a little bit more control of where I place it. And then I blend it out with my clean water. So I'm halfway down. When I'm doing my honey layer, I do come right down and probably use it very much like a pencil. So I'm very deliberate of where I lay it down and then just blending it out, soften the edges. So I end up with a hard and a soft edge on both of those. So it just defines the petal out a little bit. You'll also use that process in landscapes, still lifes, anything like that. Okay, I'll just show you. Um, so that is my tea layer of this artwork, very loose. I've painted it very loosely. Um, I'm giving the impression of, here I'm also working out my composition and how it's all going to work as well. So very loose, very watery, mopping up any puddles as I go and letting it dry. Then I will add my milk layer, which I've added here in places. Like mostly I've added it in here and then blended it out with clear water. So just pulled it out in places. Some I'll leave. It leaves some really interesting marks as well. That's my milk layer. Starting to think about my lights and darks and where to add the darker pigment and blend it out. And then to finish off, this is my finished artwork. So I have laid it in here, trying to separate out my petals. Anything that looks a bit like a blob that needs to be a bit more defined, I'll lay the colour here and blend it back in with just clean water, separating out the petals and finding the darkest darks and blending it out. And that's my honey layer. All right, let me get started. This is my tea and my honey layer, and tea and my milk layer. Okay, just drop my brush. Righto, back here again. This is my artwork from last night. This is my tea layer and my honey layer. You can pretty well see that as much there. So that was just my demonstration and our warm-up exercise. The other thing I didn't do was activate my paints. So let me just quickly do that, get that going. Yeah. I like to activate my paint probably a few minutes before I start painting so that it can soften and get moving a little bit. Okay. I was going to put some purple out. I'll use some blues. My blue going. My blue here. Might clean up my palette a little bit so I don't get red into everything. Pull that up. Usually when I do use a palette, I've got one here in front of me. Where is it? Anyway, I'll leave that. But for today, I don't want it to get mixed. And this is quite small for what I usually use, so plenty of blue over here. A little bit of water in it. And this is the consistency that I'm looking for my very first layer. Here, could add a little bit of, add a bit of that in. Get a bit, there we are. That's lovely. Okay, there's my color. That's what I'm going to aim. I'll turn this around. I'll go up this end. So that is my tea layer. And all I'm looking for is 5 petals, and they're just an oval shape like that. So that's my first petal. And I'll do 5 of them coming around like that. One more. And this is where if it was wet, those two flowers would blend nicely together. And there we are. That's all I want in here. There's my 5 petals. Then once it's dry, I will come back and add the next layer. So I'm just going to add a couple of leaves. I've got some green. My leaves are just an oblong shape, nothing special. A couple of leaves in here. Give them a stem, join them in. While it's wet, you can add some other colours in. Blue, this is really nice. Oops, that's very dark. Bit of yellow. Yellow, there we are. Let them dry. All right. Now I'm not going to dry this off, but I'll give you the idea. So my next layer is my milk layer. So I'm picking up more pigment. It's a bit thicker here on my palette. There we are. It's going to go in with the blue. I lay it in here. Lay a couple at a time, but you don't want it to dry. And then come back with my clean water and just blend it out like that and let it dry. Now, if that was dry, I'd get harder marks. So because it wasn't, there we are. So by just adding a bit of colour in here, blend it out with a little bit of water. And that's just lifting the colour already. More paint. Kind of a little triangle in the bottom and then blending it out. So it blends out to that sort of mauvey colour out on the edges. And there we go. Now, if I don't like those leaves, they are a little dark, I'm just going to use my tissue and pull it all the way back. That's just completely lightened it before it dries. There you go. So I can I can come back with that with some green and go back over that, and that just lightens it out, just that nice bit as well. There we go. All right. So that's the warm-up exercise. If I'm going too fast, just pause and catch up. Take your time. Don't forget to breathe and enjoy it. Practice, and all it is, it's just 5 petals. And we're going to put them together and do 3 of them, I think. And therefore, just take your time. Yeah, well, use yesterday's. There we go. Put that there beside me so you can see. Rolled it back a little bit. There we are. All right. Okay. I tend to paint in 3s. I like 3s better than, or odd numbers are better than even. I'm going to go for 3 again. We're just going to paint them front on today. Um, and yeah, just front on, I think is nice. We're not going to think too much about directions of the flowers. I think that's something we can play with much later. All right, let's get into this. Mixing up my blue, this beautiful blue here. Add a little bit of the magenta. There we are. Watery. We are painting with water, not the paint. We really need to think about painting with water. I'm going to go for a very similar composition on the diagonal, holding my brush way back, and I'm just going to do those 5 petals. 1, 2, 3, a little bit more water. 4, 5. I'm not overly stressed about uniformity or anything, keeping it nice and loose. Back into my puddle, I'm going to mix maybe a little bit more of this colour in to have a different shade in this one. It's almost a magenta. Lovely. Lots of water. Another one. I'm going to touch that here. 1, 2, 3. Bit more water to make it flow. And 5. Okay. One more. One more, and I think we'll just add a little bit more blue. I've just changed the shade marginally. I'm gonna pop this one over here. 1, 2, 3. It really has touched together there. There's another one. 4 and 5. I'm really loose, holding it way back. All right. Now, while I'm waiting for that to dry, I am just going to add some buds to this one just for something different. So I have a bud out here, a bud here, a bud here. I think that, the one down here. Now I've got 4, so I want more. Another one. There we are. Another bud. Now I'm going to add some leaves. And while this is drying, I'm going to use my dagger brush and this light green because I've already got it here. While these buds are still wet, I'm going to give it some side leaves and a little stem. Leaves that are underneath. A little leaves and a stem. Same here. Just using the tip of that brush to make some really nice marks. And then using that brush, because it has a lovely shape, to make some leaves. A bit more water. Very watery. And then I can add more in here. This is a brush that loves to dance. This one loves, beautiful, beautiful marks. I can use the tip, I can use the whole body in here. Don't forget to add some more in here where it might have leaves in here. From here. Another one out here. There we go. Really loose and pretty. I'm going to add a bit of yellow into some of them. Just to make a bit of interest. Pick up some of that blue that's there. Just using the colours that are on my brush, and I'm just letting the brush dance. That's all it is. Okay. In this one, I did add some like wattle sort of things, and that again is just by using the brush to make some marks. I'm just going to pick up that yellow out of here because it's quite a bit of water in there. So there it is. You can see that on my brush. It's just a bit of yellow, and all it is little dabs, and make some wattle, or I don't know, it could be anything. Just little dabs. And then we'll join it up with a little bit of green, like the stems and things. Another one out here. One this way. Come down over the top of that. Another one here. Okay. And this is just filling in while I'm waiting for the rest to dry. Okay. You can see a bit of a bloom happening here. So just a little bit too much water. I'm just going to pull that back with my tissue. It has made a mark, but I'm okay with that. Sometimes they work beautifully for you. I'm going to use my little brush, is what I did last night. And I'm just going to pick up a little bit of green out of my palette. Put it in here. So it's really loose. And I'm just going to make some little marks, just joining these together. So it could be little stems, little buds out the end. And I'm just doing this to fill in some time and my artwork while the rest dries. Little stems that might join all these together. Trying to be loose, just touching it to the yellow because it'll blend in nicely while it's still wet. Some buds out the tips. All right, a bit here. There we go. Little buds at the end. We'll come back over and give that a bit more interest later if we want to. Joining them up. This is a good brush for stopping you from being too particular. There we go. Bit of coffee. All right, I'm ready for my next layer, my milk layer. I'm going to give it a bit of a dry. This is my dryer. Just give it a bit of a heat. Righto. Roll it back. It has rolled on me a little bit, so I'm just going to roll that back. All right. I'm going to pick up another colour for that. Because I've gone purple, and instead of mixing it on here, I'm going to grab something. Have I got in here? A bit of a purple. I wonder where it is. I wonder what that is. Imperial Violet. We'll have a look at that. And have a look at that. Cobalt Violet. Let's look at both of those colours and see if we like it. So that's the Kiritake. I think is going to go nicely. Have a look at the other one I picked up. I think I like this one better. So this is that. There we go. All right, so I'm going to use this mixed with my blue because I very rarely use one shade. Pick up some of this. Might put it. There we go. Pick up a bit of this. So now I'm looking for my milk layer. So I'm looking for more consistency. And I'm going to change that by the amount of blue that I put into that because these were all quite different in color, in shade. Okay, now I'm going to add my blue just to change it up a little bit. Maybe a bit more. There we are. Quite a bit blue. Okay, I like that. So this is my milk layer, and I'm going to start by adding it into, I'd like a triangle in here. All right, like that. And then blending it out with some clean water. Just trying to find some shape and depth in the flowers. Okay, wash it, dab it off, grab some clean water. Not too wet, just blend it out. So we want it to blend out to that really light colour all the way out. Still trying to be loose. I'm still trying to be not too particular. Just softening off some of those edges. There you go. I may even drop a little bit of this right in the centre and let it blend out itself. So it joins up. While it's wet, it can just blend. There we go. Giving it a nice shade. Okay, another one. This one's kind of more magenta colour, so I'm just going to do that on the side. There we are. There we are. That's my consistency. Don't want too much on my brush. Laying it in the centre. Also just forming up the flowers just that little bit more as well. Just going to pick up a little bit of the concentrated paint and add it right in here because that's where the darkest dark is going to be. Blend it out. Soften those edges off. There we are. I'm still trying to keep really loose. Still about halfway down on my brush. Have a bit more of that. Add a bit more of that magenta right in here. Purple. There we go, all the way in. That's lovely. Okay, last one in here. It's kind of bluish. I'll add a bit more blue in here. Oh, that's nice. There we are. Lay the colour in. One more. Let them blend together. All right, soften off the edges. And there. I'm going to pick up a bit in here of that magenta and add that and let that be my center color. I think last night I added black centers, which I think I probably will again. On here. Oh, that's pretty. Let that play. Let it go. We are. This one I think needs to be joined up more so. So I'm just going to add some of the darker blue in here. Let it join up a little bit more. And I'm going to add both colors. A little bit of that. Let it blend out. There we go. A little bit on my buds. Let's play with that. I'm not going to be too fussy with my buds because they are kind of not the feature. They're not the focal point. But I'm just going to loosely add some color where the darker shades would be. A bit of that magenta purple down the very bottom, straight in here. And there. I'm trying to not be too particular. Oh, a bit much. There we go. Oh, like that. What I'm going to do is put that a bit in the center. There we go. Just by dropping where it's wet, I'm just dropping in a little bit of paint, and that might be all it really needs to pick up just enough that might be just give the impression of petals as well. Okay, back to my leaves. While this is drying, that off. Back to my leaves. I'm going to pick up, so I want some darker shades. Got my green. I'm going to add a little bit of dark blue in because that's going to go nicely with the purple, sort of a purple. Oh, that's nice. There we go. And there again, my brush is just going to dance where I think the darker shades are going to be. And then I'm just going to blend it in where I think it needs it. Here. I'm coming back with just a dampish brush. I'm going to blend some of that out. Now I'm going to come back with a little bit of yellow. I'll probably pick it up just out of here, just to make these leaves a little bit more interesting in places. The yellow just makes it sing just that little bit. All right, I want to darken some of my stems as well, which I may, there we go, just these here. I'm just going around thinking about what needs a little bit of darkening. Picking up just some lines, just different shapes that might make interest. This one's much looser than last night. There we go. While this is drying, you can see a couple of things. Bit wet there. Oh, by pulling it back, it's just making some really interesting marks. Let me show you that. Look at that. It's really pretty. Right. I'm going to add a little, just do a little bit of attention to the yellow. This is more my honey layer now. And while I'm waiting, I'm going to separate these out a little bit. And then I'm pretty much done. So that's my honey layer I'm up to now. So I'm coming down on my brush. I'm going to do a little bit more on the yellows. Um, I could go for a bit darker. Let's have a play with that. It's picking up kind of a bit more orange. Oh, I like orange and purple are complementary colours, so that's going to sing nicely. A little bit of interest on these, and it just makes it interesting. And I'd like that could be anything. It could be wattle. Just trying to give the impression of little flowers. There we go. Pretty. This one's kind of hiding. A little bit in here. Anywhere, I've got a bit of a hole here. Probably not that, but I might do some green. Put a bit of green in there. Anywhere you think needs a bit of something, it could be something very much in the background. Good. I'm going to give it another dry, and then it's ready to finish off just with the fine details. Righto. There we go. All right. Okay, I'm looking at it at the screen. We did talk about last night um, different ways for you to see if it's done. And I'm looking at it on the screen. For you, put it up somewhere and walk away from it and have a look. Hold it from a distance because we're looking straight down on top of it. Walk away, move it away, look at it from a distance, and that will give you a different perspective as to, how it looks. And it's probably a whole lot better than what you actually thought it was. You just There we go. I'm just going back into this purple that I picked up and I added a bit more water in there. I'm using this to dab my brush off so it doesn't have too much water because there is quite a bit in here. What I'm going to do now is separate out the petals. So I'm just going to pick up very concentrated paint that is just got a little bit, so it's just making it move just a little bit. I don't know if you can see that. No, not really. It's pretty dark. There is just a bit of water on there and it's softening it up nicely. Okay. Okay. This needs, I think I'll bring, no, I might bring this petal over the top of this one. So um, I'm going to separate it out. I might just bring a little bit here. Now we're not outlining, we're just separating the petals out. So I've added a bit of paint and I'm dabbing my brush off quite a bit. And I'm just going to soften an edge. So I've got a hard and a soft edge. There we go. And I've got two petals there separated nicely. I'm going to bring this one here all the way down and soften that out. Um, we're not outlining. There we go. Gosh, I'm sorry about this, that it didn't record. We have such a beautiful community that paint together second and fourth Thursday nights, and I'd love it if you could join us. And you don't have to join every week. Come and go as you please, or you can subscribe, and that way you have a beautiful collection of all the artworks in the members area on the website. There you go. Anything you don't like, just pull it back up. And I'm careful to not do too much. Where am I? Here. I think here just needs a little bit, just a little bit. It could be a bit of a ripple in the petal. It's very little. Soften it off. That's better. There we go. Okay. Next, I'm going to turn it around so that I can work a bit closer. Um, yeah, so we have a beautiful community. Second and fourth Thursday nights we paint together. We paint something different every time. Let me see. This is the next one. I think I'll put them aside. That's what the next one that we're going to paint next is the gum blossoms and leaves. Don't be frightened. It's a lesson in layering, this one. Usually we kind of work on a lesson, something a bit different. Let me show you. Let me see if I've got something here. And they are always different. This one, beautiful. Nina, who paints with us most workshops, wanted to paint some butterflies. So we painted some really loose butterflies and bees and blooms. That was beautiful. I loved that one. This one was a lesson in negative painting. So we painted everything else but flowers. And then we just pick up the details in the flowers. So really, they might look difficult, but they're not. And that's what I'd love to share with you, that it's not rocket science. Um, by keeping in mind tea, milk, and honey, you can paint anything. Same thing. This is kind of what we did last time. Um, really loose florals, again, very similar to what we did. And we added a bit of ink line work afterwards, which was a lot of fun. We explored different things. I had a stick that I played with. So don't just think you have to stick to a brush. There's pens and nibs and all sorts of things like just a regular nib pen can make some beautiful marks with some ink on top. And there's our lorikeet that we painted just recently as well. Still a lesson in layers, thinking about the direction of the feathers. And we put it all together, letting the colours mix and blend on the page. It was a lot of fun. And then the gum leaves in the background, very light, loose. There we go. So there, just a few. This is this weekend's in-person workshop. I'm going to paint the vase of lilies. Same again, tea, milk, and honey. So there we go. That's all we get to do. So if you'd love to join us, I would love for you to have us. I also have a Facebook group, Paint and Create workshops, um, that I share lots of stuff as well. Back to the painting. More painting, less talking. Yeah, the Facebook group's a lot of fun. I try and share with you anything that I find online that I think might be interesting. There we go. That's pretty, pretty blue. Um, Picking up just some edges anywhere. I'm going to use quite a bit of, that was a bit wet, but I'm just going to use a fairly dry-ish brush just to blend those edges back. There we go. A little bit of dark in the center. Some of those. Yeah, Facebook group is great. It's like just lots of info. Anything that I think is interesting that I see online, I'll share with you there. Answer any questions, help you with supplies, anything. There we go. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. All it needs is some dark centers, and I probably need to dry it first before I do that. Okay, dark center. Pick up anything, just anything. It could be black. I tend to use a color called Payne's Grey. That's a blue black. It's just a bit more interesting. I'm just going to give it a few little dots because I don't think it needs much. There we are. Doesn't need too much of a center, just a little bit. In there and let it dry. There we go. All right. The only thing I like to do is to add some splatters. We did it here. I used some pinky red. There's that one. Just gives it a bit of atmosphere. So I'll stick with my purples, and I've got a fair bit of that on my palette and make that just a bit more watery as well. There we go. Picking it up. I tend to roll my brush a lot in the paint to pick that up as well. And hold it above, and I just tap my brush. You might find a better way that suits you. There we go. Few splatters. Beautiful. There we go. Breathe. Ah, all done. I could keep playing, but I think I like it. There we go. Bring that up, let you have a look. There we are. Um, there we are. And those buds, I didn't do last night, but I think I like them. Um, their impression of buds. That's all it has to be. They're in the background. They're sitting sideways. I think that's I like it. It's a bit different. All right. I think we're done. Let me go back. There we go. Okay. All right. There we are. One more look. I'll share mine. Last night we all shared and we were amazed at how everyone's were different and they're just so beautiful. Everyone's were just great and I'm so sorry we missed all that, but there you go. There's mine. There's another one. All right. Let me lucky draw. Let me see who's in here. Who have we got? There we are. One more. There we are. Stephanie. There we are. Stephanie A. Stephanie. The email is Stephanie MAI92 Gmail. There we are. Oh, can you read it? Beautiful. Stephanie, I will be in contact, and we'll get this one off to you as soon. I'm a little snowed under. Thanks for joining. If you want to join me again next Thursday night, it's $10 for the online workshops. We have a lot of fun. We talk about art supplies and have a lot of fun. It's a beautiful group. I'd love for you to join us. This is what we're painting. Don't need anything special. Your regular watercolors. We probably might use a kebab stick. I did have one here somewhere. Oh, here it is. Here's you can make the veins with the leaves. There's always lots of things to learn. Anyway, that's what we're going to do. It's not hard. They're just little circles and little pink bits hanging out of it, and the leaves are little long triangles. It's not hard. That's what we're painting. Thursday night, the 26th. I always get a recording. This is the first time it hasn't worked, and I'm so sorry. Anyway, back to my coffee. Here we are. It's a big coffee today. Thank you for joining. I hope you do join us. You will have a link to the Facebook group as well with the email that I sent you. And I appreciate your support. Anyway, thanks a lot. Have a lovely day. Bye.